The following are the words of Lou Civello, president of the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association.
Police officers risk their lives to protect our communities and keep our streets safe. These officers are the thin blue line that stands between your family and the criminals that would do them harm. We are your neighbors, protecting your neighborhood. Hold the line. Support law enforcement. Stand with the Suffolk County PBA.
The following radio show is live, except for the announcement you're hearing right now.
Welcome back to Your Island Live with your host, Tom Schiliro, on 103.9 LI News Radio.
And once again, welcome back, moving right along every other week. That's right, folks. We have with us Lou Civello, president of the Suffolk County PBA. Always great to have Lou on the program. We learned so much about all the different things that are happening with the Suffolk PBA, and more importantly, I would say, of what our men and women are doing out there in the sector cars, the ones that we see pass our house. Many of you wave. This is what I'm hearing from the officers in the street, that the feeling among our community is good. This is what I'm hearing. And anyhow, but let's welcome Lou Civello. Lou, how are you?
Hey, Tom, doing very well. Great to be with you.
Do you hear the same thing from your membership that in our communities right now? People do wave at the police and you know, a nice friendly wave. That's what I'm saying right there. Do you hear that?
Yes, most certainly. Yeah, tremendous support for our membership out there. People love engaging with police officers. They love that community policing, the coffee with the cop, that downtown beat cop that walks in the downtown areas. You know, all of that is great for the community, and it's great for the police officer as well, because, you know, they come to know that the community here in Suffolk County truly, truly has their back and supports them.
Yeah, this is what I've been told quite a bit when I meet some of the guys and women in uniform. I engage in conversations, and many of them listen to you on every other Tuesday because they say that to me. And it's fascinating to know that they are getting that good feeling and so on. But there's something that's disturbing to me, and I want to bring the subject up with you. It's the news media, particularly, I don't like to mention it, but it's our local daily paper. They seem to have this thing that, the cops. You know, we've got some problems in Suffolk County that if we had a more open media, it could probably assist our criminal justice agencies and so on and make things better and so on. It just seems to me that they send a whole good number of reporters that just spend time digging and looking at things and, you know, trying to find a fire where maybe you just lit a match. It's not really issues that are taking place, and many of them are union issues and so on, things that you handle, and you handle it so well. And I know you were quoted in the article that you know I'm referring to right now, and I would never get into specific cases because that's not fair. It's not fair to do that because you're never going to learn all the cases and so on. But I think the whole objective by the media is just to make the cops look bad and to put an oppression upon these same people that you and I were just speaking about, that say hello to the police officers, do the coffee with the cops. They have the barbecues at some of the precincts that are funded by the community. They just want to thank the sector cops and so on. So it's almost like a tale of two worlds. You know, how do you react to that? I mean, is it just a matter, that's just the game and we got to play it?
Well, you know, I mean, it's incredibly galling. One, the double standard that they have. So, you know, where with police officers, they want the job, the county, to be judge and jury. You know, we get more crackpot allegations, Tom, than any other profession, right? We get false and bogus complaints. We get people that just don't like police officers. They don't like being told what to do. They don't like receiving a traffic summons. And police officers receive false and bogus complaints. We know that to be true. They want cases where the job finds that an officer did something wrong for the job to not only be the judge, but be the jury and the executioner, and just to be able to fire police officers on the spot. Now, you can't run a police department that way, Tom. Plain and simple. Because what you're going to have is police officers afraid to ever take action. Policing is so complex. I've never seen the policy manual that covers everything you're going to encounter as a police officer, right? And there are times you're going to get it wrong. You know, just plain and simple. You're going to get it wrong sometimes as a police. 26 years, I know that. And in some cases, you know, discipline may be warranted. But to just have officers like you have in New York City where you have untrained civilians making decisions, disciplining police officers, firing police officers, what you're going to have is a chilling effect, and you're not going to be able to accomplish the job. You're not going to be able to keep the public safe. Now, that Newsday article that you referred to, I spoke to that reporter for, it must have been a half hour, Tom, and they took one or two sentences out of context. So, that's particularly galling, the way they twist words. And then they, I was able to do a video conference with them where I was actually able to articulate some of the police officers' side. And in that video, they complain that no one wants to talk to them, that the county executive didn't give a statement, and that, other police department officials didn't give a statement. And the reason no one wants to talk to them is because they lie, they twist words, they edit to make you look bad. So it's incredibly frustrating, and it's why platforms like yours are so important, where we can discuss these issues and actually talk about them in long format, where you can put things in context. I know, Tom, that there are bad apples in every profession, including police, and in those cases, yes, they should be fired, but let's have the same standard that we have for everybody else, the same standard we have for teachers, the standard you use for criminals, right? Like presumption of innocence. We're just asking for a fair shake here when an officer is accused of misconduct. We're not asking for special treatment. So that's the case. Not shockingly, the media twists words and did not give our Suffolk County police officers, I think, a fair shake in that article.
But I guess what gets to me, and many police officers, because as you know, I speak to a lot, they create their own illusion. It's an illusion. And they do it against politicians to a certain extent, but not like they do against police. And by the way, talk about job protection. The most difficult thing to do in our society, and I'm for the public employees, is to fire a teacher. I mean, I don't know if you've ever looked into something like that. You can it's something that you almost cannot do. The district will say, well, it's going to cost us $250,000 in legal to fire a specific teacher for whatever the transgression may have been. So they end up not doing it. So it just seems to me that the unfair focus is on police officers. And I've looked at some of the numbers in terms of incidences with police. It's one of the lowest levels of a profession. I'm not just talking about Suffolk County, although Suffolk County PD is included in that. But if you look at policing throughout America, the percentages of those that go astray, so to speak, like you said, bad apples, I almost, resent that because it almost looks like you have to say it. And yeah, you probably do. But when you're dealing with like 1/2 to 3/4% that go astray, so to speak, or don't do their job the way they're supposed to do it, that should never, ever be the focus of a whole litany of articles and television stories and so on. And you and I are speaking common sense here, but it almost seems like what's going to get the public's attention? How are we going to do that? As you and I talked about, I mean, you've got YouTubers out there that are making a lot of money on going after cops. And that's what they do. And 99.9% of it is unwarranted. And yet, it's where the money is. So I think a lot of the bad information and how they could steer public perception. I'm glad we're living in Suffolk County because the perception is not being steered here, but it is being steered in certain areas. And that's my concern. And I think the bottom line is the almighty dollar. Well,
yeah, I couldn't agree more, Tom. And and first, let me say, I think our teachers, our education professionals, they do a tremendous job. They have a very difficult job shaping young minds. But for a point of comparison, you're absolutely correct. So teachers have arbitration. Now, arbitration is what Newsday seems to have the biggest issue with. Now, an arbitrator is almost synonymous with a judge, Thomas. So it means you're accused of some sort of misconduct. You get to go before a judge, and a judge is ultimately going to make the decision of what your punishment, if any, should be, up to and including firing you. Now, you don't want the judge to work for the person that's accusing you. It's a bit like, Tom, if I were to write someone a traffic summons, and that person were to go to court, and then all of a sudden, the police officer is the judge, right? It would be a kangaroo court. So you need a judge, an arbitrator, that is neutral. Now, that arbitration, we have that via our contract, something we negotiated, something that we gave up things for to get. Teachers get that via statute. So it's literally built into the law that they are entitled to arbitration when they are accused of misconduct. And it spells out, even if they are charged with a felony, right? They need to be convicted of a felony in order to be suspended without pay during this whole process. My police officers, Tom, so my members, when they're accused of misconduct, many times they're just suspended without pay, right? And then on a false and bogus complaint, they can spend a year without pay, trying to get back to work, trying to feed their family. And in many cases, it's that pressure, it's that duress that has them sign a deal that says, I'll retire at 20 years if you want me to, county, but if you let me come back to work now. You know, those decisions and those settlements are made under duress. Again, Newsday doesn't report on this, right? My police officers don't have that entitlement where they stay at work and are paid, right, while they're out, or suspended and paid. You know, they go off the payroll. They're being, they have to find a way to feed their families at that point, and that factors into the decision they make when the parties come to some sort of settlement. So again, left out of the Newsday article, the context is missing. It's just a complete hit job. It's a way to manufacture a scandal where there isn't one in order to, save what I think is a failing paper.
Amen. Amen to that, because that's, when I read the article, of course, I know a lot of the background too, on the way in which the PBA under your leadership operates and so on. And I thought you represented the other side, because it was the other side. Hey, listen, we got to tell the better truth here, because you guys think as reporters that you're telling the truth and you're all outraged and so on. You're just trying to sell newspapers. You're trying to make your impact here, whether it's a Pulitzer Prize or whatever the heck they're trying to go for. But at the same time, you're representing, which I think is an underappreciated among certain quarters, not among the public, but an underappreciated segment of our society that needs to have that focus and needs to have that voice. And I did read the article. You did a phenomenal job with it, but I did suspect they left stuff out, and which they would do. So it's biased to a large extent. And I think we live in a political climate coming out of Albany and even coming out of Washington, D.C. among certain members of Congress. As we can see, today is primary day, meaning today is Democratic primary day in New York City. But those members of Congress that are going to get elected, many of them are running on an anti-police platform, particularly when it comes to the New York City Police Department. There was the word defunded. Now it's the reallocation. I guess they don't want to use defunded, the reallocation of resources. And that's just not working. And what happens in New York City definitely blows the smoke out here in terms of the media and so on. And I think it's something, and I'm glad we're talking about it today, because the truth has to be told when it comes down to the work that police officers do throughout this country and here in Suffolk County, because it's so vital. It's so important. I don't want to put down other professions, but this is it. And again, that voice certainly has to be there when we talk about it, so on. So when we look at today's election and we look at what some people are saying, some of these candidates are saying, scary proposition. I wish New York State was a little different than it is when it comes to their political philosophy, Lou.
Yeah, again, Tom, completely agree. Defund the police, reallocate resources, it's the exact same thing. That phrase, defund the police, became politically toxic for them because every place they did it, we saw violence, we saw chaos. So now we're going to dress it up, repackage it as reallocation, but it's the same failed policy that puts your family in danger. People should fall for it. We should reject it. And you're right, a lot of these politicians are running on anti-police platforms, anti-American platforms. It's sad, Tom, and it should be rejected by the voter. I will say, though, in this Democratic primary, we have a fight that we are involved in, and that is one to protect our state, protect public pensions as well. All those pensions that you go out there and risk your life for, that promise that if you risk your life for 30 years, 35 years, that you're going to have a fair retirement. Well, that's in jeopardy right now because we have a pair of woke challengers that want to get their hands on the New York State public pension system. They're running for state comptroller against Tom DiNapoli. And they essentially want to raid the pensions, Tom, and they want to use it for political purposes. They want to be able to punish oil companies and punish Israel and whatever their crazy whim of the week is. That's how they're going to invest the money. They're going to divest from certain things, not caring about the retiree, not caring if that pension system is solvent or not. We can't allow that to happen. So all my friends out there that are registered Democrats, I would ask you today to remember to get out there and vote for State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli. Now, Tom is a Dem. I lean pretty conservative, but I will tell you he is a common-sense Democrat. He is someone that's been a careful steward of those pensions, your retirement, Tom, and hopefully one day my retirement, and thousands upon thousands of other public workers out there. He's done right by them.
I know I've been talking about that race. I've known Tom for about 30 years. So we both came from the same political end in Suffolk County, and extremely successful. One of the brightest guys you'll ever meet, folks. I'm going to back up Lou on this, and also the most honest person that ever existed in politics. And I could say that I've known him for many years. And I don't usually endorse candidates from this microphone, but with Tom DiNapoli, it is that important. And folks, you have some time. You got it's almost 1 o'clock. You have almost 8 hours until the polls close. If you didn't early vote, and you must be a registered Democrat, don't waste your vote. Get down there. Vote for Tom DiNapoli. Do not vote, because it is that important. And Lou, you couldn't be any more correct. How are we on some of the anti-police legislation? I know the session's over right now. I was concerned that maybe, not concerned, I was hopeful, that I was concerned when it happened, but the resolution of 50A and getting that back, restoring 50A, is that something that we just got to live with now, that it's never going to be restored?
We were hopeful that was going to move, Tom, and my understanding was that was killed by the Speaker, unfortunately. We made some headway on some pro-labor issues, as you know, those Tiers 5 and Tiers 6. Yes. Mental health, we unfortunately had a suicide here. In Suffolk County Police, the Suffolk County Police Department, we lost a member to suicide. There was a bill earlier this year that gives us some privilege with our counselors, so that was a positive thing for police. I will tell you there was some negative legislation that passed in the budget aimed at ICE, but really, encompasses all of law enforcement. One of the mask ban, which again seemed absurd to me. So that there's now a misdemeanor for a police officer to wear a mask in New York State on duty. And I will tell you, we don't wear masks in Suffolk County, but just think about that. Put that in context, Tom, for just a second. So if I work at Walmart and I want to wear a mask, no law against it. If I want to steal from the Walmart, right, there's no law against me wearing a mask to steal from that Walmart. But if I'm the cop that is trying to stop the person stealing and I put a mask on, I just committed a misdemeanor here in New York State. So that's how backwards the state is. We still get this because that's clearly anti-police legislation. So it's something that we have to keep the fight up against.
One thing that you guys do, and we only have a few minutes left, but one thing that the PDA does is you interview candidates, Democrats, Republicans, which is the way it should be done, and so on. And I always said to myself, because I talk to myself a lot, I really want to talk to a socialist, or I want to talk to somebody on the far left. I'm talking about here in New York, maybe running for the Assembly, Senate, so that I can get the whys and the wherefores. Like what you just said, I laugh, you laugh probably too. But yet, I want to know the rationale for those people that really feel that's a good idea. And you get an opportunity to speak to these individuals. What do you hear? What is the rationale behind that? Well, you just said.
Yeah, well, I tell you, when I reply with that, you just get a blank stare because it becomes very difficult for them to justify. Overall, they're looking to score political points. They want to punish ICE. They try to spin this that ICE is out there and they're separating families and they're dragging people out of bagel stores and that sort of a thing. Schools, right? And they can't wear a mask because if they wear masks, then we can't identify them and we can't punish them and we can't sue them. They want to make it easier to sue ICE agents. They've actually passed another statute in that budget that makes it easier to sue ICE agents at the state level, but it also makes it easier to sue police officers. So again, we're caught up in the net here. It's a political game. They're trying to please their constituency, the far left of their constituency, that's for sure. And that's sort of how they justify it. Sometimes the fact that it really is just wrong. It doesn't matter to them. All that matters is that they can go to the polls and say, "Hey, I punished the other side," and that's sad. That's a sad reflection, I think, on our democracy. It's not the way we should conduct ourselves. And as Americans, we should be looking for the best policies for our country and its people, not for something that's going to help me get elected.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, we're out of time. Once again, Lou Civello, president of Suffolk County PBA. Lou, I'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, man.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, let's talk to Alan Bodie. I don't know, did you see the sentencing of Rex Heuermann? Well, Alan was there, and let's see what he has to say. We'll be right back.